Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. This is a very depressing show to do, but we're here to do it anyway. I'm just kidding. Let's do it with the energy that I think we've always done this. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Down in the Valley podcast. Um, really, not the show we wanted to do this week. Eh, we really wanted this dream to continue, but we went up against a very clinical and organized San Antonio FC. And, well, that's pretty much the end of this season for RGV FC. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, obviously, we're going to be analyzing the game, what went wrong for the Toros, what did San Antonio do right. Because let's be honest, guys, I know as much as it pains us to say it, we have to give San Antonio credit for what they did last Saturday. Obviously, we're going to have Jacob on, kind of give his point of view from what he saw on the broadcast. And then after that, we'll kind of give our quick little thoughts about the final, the Western Conference final. And next week, we'll be talking a little bit about, our who we think should stay, who should probably need to move on to another team for 2022. But to talk to us, obviously, as I mentioned before, we have our co-host Jacob Young on the show. Jacob, how you doing, man?
Yeah, not doing too bad. Looking forward to talking soccer. Looking forward to talk about that game, even though, of course, it wasn't the result that we wanted to, but a lot to definitely discuss about it. And I mean, yeah, it's should have, would have, could have done for RGVFC for sure, but it didn't end up happening.
Yeah, and like I said, it's we'll be analyzing this. I know it's because I know when I was talking about it yesterday on the Striker Tejas podcast, uh, Roberto Silva was like, man, I preferred that Edson from like after the game. He's like, it looks like that second viewing of the game kind of made you a little bit more critical or cynical about the Toros. But no, I think overall, I'm not sure, Jacob, what your overall evaluation of the year is for the Toros, but I think overall the Toros kind of exceeded my expectations, and because I honestly never thought that the Toros would make it as far as they did. In fact, the fact that they made it to the playoffs, I thought maybe they would be kind of the outside looking in. The fact that they defeated Phoenix Rising, was something that extremely out of the ordinary. And you know, so overall, considering all the circumstances of a late start due to the independence decision, grabbing Wilmer Cabrera in February, and just not building a team until after Wilmer Cabrera was selected, and as he mentioned, pretty much done through the phone, without an idea on how these players would kind of gel together, how work in the system. I think overall it was a pretty good year. Obviously, 2020 was pretty much the lowest bar he could set the standard to. But overall, it was a very fun team to watch, and I think a lot of fans that have been here since the Dynamo years can pretty much attest to that. That it was a pretty fun team to watch. That they put in the effort to fight for the Valley. And overall, I think it's a good stepping stone for what's to come in 2022.
I mean, I definitely have to agree that it is a good stepping stone for 2022. RGVFC were in no means expected to do anything this season, and I mean that. RGVFC, like you said, Wilmer Cabrera coming in, RGVFC losing their president. Yes, their president again this year, and just little things like that that delayed the start of this team actually forming. I mean, helped. Of course, you can say all you want about how they ended the season, but RGVFC, the way that they started up, nobody expected it. And things like that just continued to go forward. And of course, going down, it just ended up being good, is what I'm trying to say. So that's basically what you could ask for in a season of this sort. Yes, the playoffs were set up to where RGVFC could have had a chance to make it even farther, but it wasn't meant to be this year. Maybe it'll be meant to be the next year. So, I mean, who knows?
So I want to take a look and kind of look at the messages right now in the chat here on YouTube. We'll give a quick shout out to everybody on Facebook as well. So let us know if you're watching from Facebook. But we've got Harry and Mike right now chatting in the chat, pardon the redundancy. But, you know, they're talking. It was, first of all, I want a huge shout out to Mike Reyes, the Stampede president. I heard some stories about what happened at Toyota Field. I'm not going to say I'm surprised, you know, the way that they treat their away fans. It's, I mean, they're trying to impose home field advantage, but there's a difference between establishing home field advantage and just being a douche in general to away fans. But that's just my opinion on that. I'm sure Mike, if he wants to, he can probably mention some of the things that I think he saw. But you know, Harry says, "What's up, Mike? Wish you had a better game day. Unacceptable on whoever pulled that shit with you." You know, he says hi to you as well, Jacob. I think he mentions as far as the final, and we'll get to it later. He says, "I think we are going to crush them," and I thought RGV would have as well. And there's one thing I do want to say in regards to that, because after we'll talk about San Antonio, I have to agree with Harry on this. I agree that I think whoever of both teams, either RGV or San Antonio, went on to the next level, to the next round, I think they could have beaten Orange County. And he says, "I just don't think OC is that good." Mike says, "On paper, you guys are way better," and we'll talk about that. And then as far as RGVFC, Harry says, "It was a great season for RGVFC. Hopefully the FO can build on it with an increase in marketing to the Valley and start to grow the fan base."
That can also be talked about a little bit more, and even on a separate show for that matter. Oh man, do I have a lot to say about that? Yeah, let's. Marketing does need to do a better job. Yes, it was the largest crowd that RGVFC had when they played El Paso Locomotive this year, but of course that's setting a low bar considering that RGVFC never said that they would release it to full capacity, even though it was kind of there, but we could never get past 3,000 fans. So that was a case in itself. But of course, for the first half of next season is going to be amazing. But we'll see what happens when it hits late July, August, and late August. That's all I'm going to say on that. We'll see what happens when it hits that time. Because, I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame.
I honestly feel that RGV is kind of, as far as marketing is concerned, they're doing the bare minimum.
Yep.
Honestly, like an occasional commercial here and there, some billboard placements on the electronic billboards around the Edinburgh, Far, McAllen area. And that's about it that I have seen. I don't hear radio. I don't listen to the radio, so I'm not 100% sure if they do run some commercials through radio stations or anything like that. But I do know that, for example, when they were importing games, they would send out Vicente Sanchez or any other player to the local radio stations to kind of promote the game. But I mean, that's the bare minimum that you can expect. And honestly, to me, the biggest question is, what are you doing outside this general region of the Edinburgh metropolitan and McAllen metropolitan area. What are you doing outside? What are you doing in Harlingen? What are you doing in Brownsville? What are you doing in San Benito? What are you doing in Roma? What are you doing in Rio Grande City? That's where the Toros need to amplify their marketing, because, and I know this came up when we were talking about the UTRGV wanting to play their football team at HEB Park, and somebody mentioned to me that, they feel like the Edinburgh region always gets the good stuff and they feel abandoned. And I don't blame them at all. I don't blame them for feeling abandoned by RGVFC. Yes, they are promoting they did have this marketing, what's the word I'm trying to find? Their marketing plan was para el Valle, right? And they would always promote about, Lyford and all these areas on the Rio Grande Valley. But I would like to know if there's anybody that is listening right now after the live stream, or if anybody's listening right now on the live stream that live outside the McAllen metropolitan area. Let me know. And you know what? I'll even post a poll on Facebook or on Twitter as well. I want to know if the Toros have been promoting the team in Harlingen, in the southmost region of the Rio Grande Valley. Because if they don't, then that means that that is definitely something that they really need to improve on.
Definitely.
Because the Rio Grande Valley isn't just Edinburgh, guys. It's everywhere. It's Starr County, it's Cameron County, it's Willacy County. And so that definitely needs to improve, so that way people realize that this team exists, that this team has improved now that they've reached independence. Because look, let me tell you this much, Jacob. There's a guy, my dad went to the game against San Antonio, right? And he was talking to this fan that traveled over there. And that person still didn't even know that for the past 5 years, we were under the Houston Dynamo.
Yeah,
and that's why the reason why this team was bad the last couple of years. And that is all on media. That is all on the influencers. And I hate the word influencers, but if you want to use the correct term as far as the social media is concerned, influencers. People that are supposed to cover, whether by social media posts or X and Y reason. I'm looking at you, Pancho Gomez. Although you probably haven't even done anything for like the past couple of months. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is, that's on them to notify their audience what exactly is going on with RGVFC. What exactly went on the last couple of years with RGVFC. And you don't do that, well, then there's going to be a lot of misinformation about the team. And I'm not really putting the blame on the audience. I mean, because a lot of times you don't have the time to go out there. You're not, people aren't as dedicated to this team yet, so but you have to put the information out there. Anyway, I'm kind of getting a little bit off topic. The point is, I think that the Toros definitely need to improve how the media covers them. I'm not exactly telling them specifically follow this guideline, but no, at least make it so that way that information is readily available, and letting the audience, the fans know, like, hey, this is what these people are covering us. Let them know that Down in the Valley exists. Let them know that the Striker Texas exists. Let them know that Solo Football RGV exists. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let them know about the coverage that they're doing on them, and be very treat everybody equal, right? I know Telemundo has done a great job, making sure that their local news uh, broadcasts at 5 and at 10, that they talk about the toros in the sports section. And I know Alex Del Barrio, Channel 5, is the same thing. He always makes sure that they talk about the toros at that specific moment in the sports sections. But I know that there's more that can be done as far as getting the coverage out. Coverage of the toros isn't just, oh, this was the final game or this was the final score, and that's it, right? So, and I know that here in the Rio Grande Valley, it's all about high school sports. It's all about obviously high school football, etc. The Cowboys, even the Texans, but really not that much. But the point is, yeah, go ahead, Jacob.
I was just gonna say, I mean, the empty seats show more than obviously who cares about which team, because one team can sell out a stadium, the other team can't. That's the Houston Texans who can't sell out a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That was my point.
But yeah, I think overall marketing needs to be better, and that includes allowing the fan base to know who's covering this team. I'm not expecting RGV to fully endorse a specific media outlet over another one, but at least do what the Houston Dynamo does with although I think they only do it within the media. But anyway, what they do is they send out a newsletter every day that kind of displays all of the articles that have talked about the Dynamo, the Dash, in a newsletter form, right? So that way, they can see that, okay, like these people are covering the Dynamo or the Dash. Okay, this is what they're saying. So, like for example, if the Athletic, comes up with an article talking about the Dynamo, let's say, the hiring of Pat Onstad, right? It'll be out there. But the point is, I think that the team needs to kind of help nudge their fans into the coverage to learn more about the team. Maybe learning more about the team, it'll get other people. It will get them to kind of be more involved with the team, kind of help know about X and Y reason, be a lot more informed. Getting other people, to come to the games, all of that. It all is intertwined with marketing. So yes, I agree with Harry. Marketing needs to improve. And I don't have any concrete plans as to what they specifically need to do to get more people into the stadium. First of all, I've always said it, the team needs to win. And I think 2021 was a good foundation of a winning team that the fans can be proud of. We made it to the playoffs. We went past the number one team in the Western Conference. Now let's see what 2022 can do for RGVSC. But also, you need to make sure that the word of RGVSC gets out there to the fans that maybe haven't heard of RGVSC, or maybe they don't know what's going on with the Toros. Why? Because obviously maybe they don't watch Telemundo, they don't watch Channel 5, they don't watch Down in the Valley, etc., etc., etc. But the more the team helps promote who covers the team, at the end, it's going to be better for them because more people are going to know about the Toros, and maybe they're going to be more inclined to go to the stadium. At the end, it's all marketing. At least that's the way I see it.
No, I agree. I have a feeling that, like I said again, late August is going to show a turn in the stadium, and we're not going to see a lot of Toros things up in there at HEB Park, and it's going to be shameful. It's going to turn into UTRGV place, and then UTRGV, I think, is going to take over from that standpoint. Not in marketing, but just marketing for their stupid football team. Yes, that's honestly how I feel. When you got a place in Wesco that meets halfway for both, I'm not even kidding. That stadium is gorgeous. Well, Wesco ISU doing a fantastic job with all their stuff and has the equipment for all an ESPN Plus broadcast for a UTRGV football game. I'm not even joking there. Yeah, do they really want real turf or real grass when every other place or every single um, football field doesn't have real turf, especially in their conference? I don't know why you'd want that, but okay. It's just I don't understand what's going to happen there. I'm hoping more people show up, but again, it goes back to marketing.
But anyway, let's kind of move forward to what we're here to talk about, and that is the game against San Antonio on last Saturday. So let's take a look. First of all, let's look at the lineup that former Cabrera post or called to go up against San Antonio. Now, here's a couple of things that we need to take into consideration. Number one, we aren't going to have Jonas Gelberg. We knew that. Mm-hmm. Then came the call-up of Christian Sorto to the El Salvadorian national team for this international window. Huge kudos to Christian Sorto. Like I mentioned on Twitter, I think he's got to be one of the most improved players from this 2021 roster. So I think his call-up to the national team, definitely well-deserved. But those are two key players out in the attack that really linked up well with Kyle Edwards at the end of the season. Now you have to use Elvis Amo, yes, leading goal scorer for the Toros this season, but the incognito was how was Amo and Edwards going to link up with each other? How were they going to link up with each other? You know, it was a combination that we had rarely seen from the Toros before. So we went into this match. Obviously, we were going to have... Oh, also, Tyler Derrick was still injured. So Colin Miller was going to be the starting goalkeeper. Going back with a line of four with Juan Carlos Azocar, Carter Manley, Eric Pimentel, and Babukar Jai. Line of three midfielders with Rodrigo Lopez, Juan David Cabezas, and Andres Flores. Emilio Icaza playing that number 10 role behind Kyle Edwards and Elvis Amo. So, as I mentioned, the incognito was how is Elvis Amo and Kyle Edwards going to link up together? Now, just based on this lineup alone, what were your specific thoughts?
Honestly, I thought the lineup was fine. I thought it was pretty good, especially at goal. Mm-hmm. You have Colin Miller starting. Yes, of course, Tyler Derrick was still hurt, and that didn't faze me one bit considering, well, what we saw a week ago, which was, you know, a man stepping up and actually feeling more and more comfortable throughout the game and saving a ton of penalty shots, too, when it came down to it. Now, of course, yes, it was just the offensive front that made me a little skeptical, but Elvis Amo, I think, would have been okay with Kyle Edwards being right there. Turns out I was wrong, but at first glance, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought so too. In the Striker Texas pregame show that I did, I was pretty positive about having Amo and Edwards together. I just wasn't sure how them without Sorto, how they were going to play, how they were going to adapt to each other. And honestly, San Antonio, I don't know if they listened to my pregame comments where I mentioned that if you're gonna want to play, if you're gonna want to defeat RGVFC, I said you need to play them with the high pressure, and that's exactly what they did. Because just a couple of seconds, and I literally mean a couple of seconds after the starting whistle from the referee, San Antonio had already caused the Toros to lose the ball right in their half of the field. And Jose Gallegos was able to create a dangerous opportunity on Colin Miller's goal. This is it. Look, 27 minutes. Pass the ball to Juan David Cabezas. Tries to force the ball through a space that wasn't there, right? And let me put that back. Okay, so see. So Juan David Cabezas has the ball. Go away, more videos, right? You have PC, number 6, and another San Antonio player closing in the spaces. You have Rodrigo Lopez by the touchline. And where's everybody else? Because even Jose Gallegos, I think it's Gallegos, right there, yeah. Jose Gallegos is covering Juan Carlos Azócar. And then you have Nathan covering behind Juan David Cabezas. Let me put it back there. So this is Nathan right here, covering any space to try to find somebody in the middle of the field. You have Jose Gallegos covering Azócar and PC covering Rodrigo Lopez. So Juan David Cabezas had nowhere to go. Instead, he tried to force the ball towards Rodrigo. PC was able to block that. And Jose Gallegos just had all this free space in front of him because all of the defenders were forming like a little U around this particular area of the field. So he had space to run. Takes the shot that at first glance probably didn't seem like much, but look where that ball ended up passing by. And it was deflected off for a corner, right, from one of the defenders. So that was just 30 seconds in. Then you have this particular play, 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. Okay, this is my problem. Look at where Juan Carlos Azócar is. He is all the way out towards left of the middle of the field. Juan David Cabezas is by the middle circle, and PC was left all alone with space in front of him, nobody to mark him. PC gets that shot, but from the beginning, because of the high pressure by San Antonio, the defense was in shambles. The defense was so unorganized. Mm-hmm. And it was a miracle to me that San Antonio didn't score earlier because of this.
I agree. The defense was in shambles. They did not know what to do. And that was a common case of just the whole game and from the get-go, just like you said. I mean, you hit it perfectly. I don't know what else to add on that because it was just frustrating. I know basically, I'm pretty sure I blacked out of my mind throughout half of the game because it was just so painful to watch, especially that first half where RGVFC did look like it was an even game. But I go back to this is how RGVFC would play against not only San Antonio FC, Austin Bold especially. They played where Austin Bold would put up a high pressure offense and even defense and would make it very difficult for RGVFC to come back if RGVFC were to get a goal early and still get scored on a couple of times. So San Antonio FC did that right thing right off the bat of causing that pressure and making RGVFC fend.
And another thing with the high pressure of San Antonio, when RGV did manage to get possession of the ball, it was so hard for them to link up within each other. Mm-hmm. It felt like a team in preseason, rather than a team that was already in the playoffs. Some simple passes that I think that they were forced to kind of, like I said, try to force the space when there wasn't any, or even simple passes to an open teammate where they're like, I guess the player with the ball expected his teammate to move one way. The teammate ended up going another, and they would just like give the ball away to a throw-in. And that happened multiple times within the game. So San Antonio, with that intensity, got into RGV's head, and it seemed like Wilmer could not find a way to kind of get them out of that rut during the game. Like even into the second half, they still were playing like that. So now let's go ahead and look at the play of the first goal for San Antonio FC. So PC gives the ball over here to Marcus Epps. I really don't see a problem here with the defensive line there. I mean, they're all technically covering somebody. But then look what Marcus Epps does. Somebody leaves, I think that's Jose Gallegos. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jose Gallegos wide open, and Eric Pimentel just was not positioned correctly.
Nope.
Look at that. So pass to Jose Gallegos. Jose Gallegos puts him on the other side of the foot of the balance, gets him off balance, dribbles the ball inside of the net, takes the shot. Colin Miller gets that save, but parries it straight towards where Santi Patino. Okay, let's take a look right there. Okay, look at how Gallegos dribbles, gets that shot. Colin Miller isn't able to get a good hand on it to keep the ball. But this is what worries me, Jacob. Babukar Jai was supposed to be the player that was supposed to be marking Santi Patino.
Yeah.
Look at him. He just stood there. And then after the goal goes in, he raises his hand asking for an offside.
Yeah.
Dude, you can't do that.
Nope.
You have to continue the play until the referee calls it. You can't give a poacher like Santi Patino that much space to work with to pounce on any ball that is inside of the area. It's just simple defending 101.
Yep. I remember when I was watching that game and streaming it at the same time. Well, not streaming the actual game, but just streaming my reaction. I said that exact same thing. I'm like, who the heck is raising up your hand for offside? Are you like, why? That does not benefit you one bit. Basically, yeah, I was as furious as can be about that. And I'm like, Colin Miller did everything he possibly could to save that.
Yeah.
You're not offside. You have five. You got five defenders basically around there. They're not going to be offside. We're not playing an offside trap. If anything, SAFC are against us. So, yeah, it was just, I mean, that goal was frustrating. I don't know what more to say, obviously, besides what are you doing not marking your man when you're supposed to be marking your man? That's the whole point of soccer, and especially that tactic.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jose Gallegos, man, that kid can play. That kid can ball. He drove our defense insane. Like there were even more plays where Pimentel or Manley just had no idea how to mark against him in the run of play. It's just they were overwhelmed. And they were overwhelmed with Marcus Epps in the midfield, also doing whatever he wanted with, the dribbles, the feints, the nutmegs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was so overwhelming for the Toros, to be honest. There was no reaction from RGV, and yeah, it's just so frustrating to watch. And yeah, all the credit goes to Alan Morsina in playing how RGV struggles the most. Mm-hmm. RGV all season, they struggled the most when a team was playing high pressure on them, when they weren't letting them control the ball comfortably. And Alan Morsina picked this up. And you know what? And considering that San Antonio also plays comfortably in that high pressure, because let's be honest, you have to remember, San Antonio isn't really a team that loves to have the ball. They like to give you the ball, see what you can do, and then when they recover it, boom, 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 and they're already out in your field, in your 18-yard box.
Yep.
So they are a very high-paced and dynamic team, which is perfect to go up against RGVFC. It's just what it is, guys. And we know y'all. We know a lot of the RGV fans hate San Antonio. It probably hurts us to give them credit, but we have to give them credit to all they did to RGVFC. So Mike says, let's be honest, the Toros beat themselves. I disagree with that, Mike. And this is, I'm telling you, because in any other game against any other opponent, RGV would have probably had more time with the ball. They would have had, more opportunities on goal, even without Christian Sorto. But San Antonio figuratively choked RGV to the point they weren't comfortable at all having the ball. They're losing the ball really, really quickly. And that's all on San Antonio. That's all on San Antonio, not allowing them to play what they're most comfortable with. And the only reason why, or one of the reasons why RGV went past Phoenix Rising, because Phoenix Rising did not have the defense that San Antonio does have. And San Antonio did not allow anything through besides the penalty.
Yep.
And I'll take a look at the stats right now just so you can see how bad it was for RGV. So now we're just going to show you some plays in the second half, guys. So this is the second goal. This is starting off, guys. Keep in mind, this is starting off a throw-in. You got two players that are supposed to be marking Marcus Epps. I think it's Marcus Epps. And Marcus Epps just slips by both of them to receive the throw-in. Passes the ball back to Tainter. Gets the cross in. Now this is where I was like, what the hell? What the hell, Colin Miller? Colin Miller goes up to try to get that cross, realizes it's too far away, and regrets his decision and tries to come back into his 6-yard box. Look, tries to come up, regrets it, and the only thing that does is it confused his defense. Yep. Pimentel miscalculates that ball. And once again, Santi Patiño, because look, oops. Let's look at this more closely. So, Eric Pimentel is the one that is guarding Nathan, right? Or is supposed to be guarding Nathan. No, he's got Fergasa originally. Look. Let's go back. Look where Eric Pimentel is. I wish I could show you the cursor. But Eric Pimentel at this point, he's the one that has Santiago Patiño on his back. Rule number 1. Or rule number whatever. You don't do that. You always have to have your defender in front, or your attacker in front of you if you're a defender. Not behind you. Because behind you, what good is that going to do? He can move anywhere and you're never going to realize it. And that's exactly what Santi Patiño did. Look, Santi Patiño fakes like he's going to move towards where Eric Pimentel is. When Marcus Epps sends the ball back, he stops moving and starts moving back towards the penalty spot. And Eric Pimentel doesn't realize this, right? Then Nathan runs towards where Eric Pimentel is, but guess what? Carter Manley moved along with him. So now you've got two players in the vicinity of where Nathan is. Nobody is guarding, not even Azocar, because look where Azocar is. He's right next to the penalty spot, but he doesn't go to try to intercept that ball or try to at least make Santi Patiño uncomfortable. Manley and Pimentel get in each other's way, causing them to miscalculate the ball. The ball lands towards the feet of Santi Patiño, and Santi Patiño is able to put that ball inside the net. Just a defensive mess out there in that particular play. Like everything went wrong for RGV's defense in that play.
Yep. The defense, I mean, was not there for that goal. You talked about it perfectly. It starts, of course, before Miller, but Miller, the last defense, basically goes up. And I mean, that's the most frustrating thing, is where the inexperience comes into play. And Colin Miller still has a long way to go to be a better keeper. And that's one of those situations where you would have rather had Tyler Derrick behind in goal at that time, because he would have noticed that and backed up. It does go back with the defense of just being that sloppy. But then again, RGVFC's defense were constantly just like that, pressed in the back, where they could not do, just about they couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and they've been sloppy almost all season long. I said, coming up to this game, I said, it is going to depend on how many mistakes, if the Toros can limit the amount of mistakes they make in the back line. Against Phoenix, they made mistakes. That cost them dearly. It's like, if they limit the mistakes, then we should be fine. But if they don't, which seemed to be the tendency for this defense, then that's where San Antonio is going to pounce on those opportunities, and pounce they did. So let's move on over to the third goal. By the way, to me, obviously, this is just one of those goals where you just have to look at awe how well played this was by Nathan Fegasa. The way he just chips the ball over Eric Pimentel, it's just, you just have to admire it, man. It's like, the more you try to demerit, look at this. And then gets that shot directly after going past Eric Pimentel. The more you try to excuse, man, we just look bad as a fan, not giving them the credit in that game. But at this point, yeah, I felt like a lot of the players were already defeated. Like, they were like, when they scored the second goal, I saw a lot of the players like on the ground lamenting themselves. Like they just were gone by that time. They're what's the word I'm looking for? They were frustrated, and they were defeated. They just were defeated. They felt like, okay, this is the end of the game. We're done. It's over. Right? And then Wilmer Cabrera around the 65th minute brings in Alexis Cerritos, a player who had been gone for a long time from I think even the bench. He hadn't seen action in a while, right? So this was the 67th minute. Elvis Samo, who at the end of the game, okay, look at that. That's a blatant foul. I don't see what San Antonio was complaining about. Okay, look at it. Look at this. Boink. Like, he threw himself towards the leg of Alexis Cerritos. Like, really? But one of the things I did want to mention as well is that it got the disorganization and the lack of chemistry between Kyle Edwards and Elvis Samo was such that Elvis Samo found himself a lot closer to the wing more often than ever. It's like they wanted to continue to play the way they would play under Sorto, but they wanted a direct replacement on Sorto with either Kyle Edwards or Elvis Samo. When you know that the qualities of Elvis Samo, or the characteristics of Elvis Samo, are nothing compared, or are not like Christian Sorto's, you can't expect a number 9 to be as athletic and nimble as a winger like Christian Sorto. And what that ended up doing was just they just closed the spaces on themselves. And so at the end, it was a 3-1 loss, a painful 3-1 loss for RGV fans. And it always hurts when your rival, your arch nemesis, gets the better of you in the knockout stage.
Yep.
So, but overall, I still say it was a good season. They gave us hope, which is something that we had not had for a while as Toros fans. And I think we can only go up from here. Now that Wilmer Cabrera is going to have more time to fully prepare this team during an off season, to get players that better fit his system, gets rid of some of the players that were not good at all. And we'll talk about that next week, about who we think should stay and who we think should go. But before we continue to talk and give our predictions about what can happen in the USL final, or USL Western Conference final between San Antonio and Orange County, I did mention stats, right? Stats for this game, for this semifinal. So, looking here, and let me go ahead and show you, right? Let me get this a little closer over here. I think I should be all right. All right, there we go. So, possession of the ball, like we mentioned, San Antonio really wasn't a team that was going to maintain possession. They were going to give the ball to RGV, see what they can do, see if they could break their defense, which they couldn't. But they were going to pounce on any opportunity to take the ball away and create danger on Colin Miller's goal, which is exactly what they did. 66.7% possession for RGV, 33.3% possession for San Antonio FC. Definitely is something that anybody could have predicted was going to happen, right? Now this is what, and I was talking to Jacob before we went live. Interceptions, 17 interceptions for San Antonio FC, only 3 interceptions from RGV. And another one of the character, or one of the keys that I had set before the game was Rodrigo Lopez, right? How he was going to be able to, what he was able to do defensively and offensively, right? Against Phoenix, we saw it where he had a lot of key recoveries of the ball, right? Well, San Antonio played so fast, so quickly, he didn't even have an opportunity to try to recover a ball. So everything just San Antonio just played almost everything to what hurts RGV. It was just the perfect game for San Antonio against RGV. So 17 interceptions compared to 3 for the Toros. Let's see what else is interesting over here. Crosses. The Toros had 23 crosses, but only 8.7% were successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was extremely noticeable too. That's the difference. It was extremely noticeable where RGVFC all of a sudden, what have they worked on in practice? All of a sudden it was gone. Like your crosses inside the box or not inside the box, they're to the other side of the corner, either to the left or to the right. And that was very frustrating to watch.
So let me go real quick to the messages. We got some interesting messages, and I want to get your thoughts on, Jacob, and I'll give mine as well. So Kevin Ramirez says, good season. They had a lot of spirit in the last 3 games and playoffs, but I feel like they needed to work more because in the end it was a lot of spirit and no game. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely see where he's coming from, and I can kind of agree. But as we talked about, it was just the way San Antonio came out with their game plan, and RGVFC weren't ready for it, which in the long run, it's going to make you look like you don't want to play. You came out and you didn't want to play. Basically, that's how I felt after the game. It's like, where's this fight? Where's the fight at all? Nowhere to be seen because RGVFC can't get a shot on goal. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is 3 shots in total, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 4. Technically 4 and 2. You take away that one because it's, of course, a penalty. And the rest, are literally just 3 shots. You're only allowed to get 3 shots when, yes, they should have been able, they should have taken more. They should have taken more shots. And I say this because they were able to have a little bit of space outside of the box. Yes, outside of the box shots aren't the best, but if you take one, sometimes it's going to lead to a freaking corner. And they did not try that. And that was so frustrating to watch, that RGVFC would not just take a shot and maybe it deflects to a corner kick, or maybe it deflects to something to where RGVFC could get something going inside the box. So that was a little frustrating for sure on that end of the game.
I
But yeah, the
think
stats show.
I think for me, I agree with Kevin, because the game against Phoenix, I think they were able to take advantage, obviously, of the defense, the leaky defense by by Phoenix. But against San Antonio, it's not enough. It's not enough to, with hustle, with heart, in order to break apart such a very organized defense. It takes brains. It takes creativity. And I think Wilmer, in that aspect, I think he did not know how to counteract how to counteract Alan Morsina's gameplay. He had no idea how, whether with his players that were in the field at that time, or with the bench. I mean, looking at the bench, you have a kid as a goalkeeper, Garcia, right? You have Dispe, which I'm still asking myself why he was on the bench and not playing, considering he was our best defender this year. You had James Murphy, obviously because of Juan David Cabezas. You had Adrian Vera. You had Alexis Cerritos, who you brought in. John Henry Sanchez, another player that had been missing for a bunch of games. And Vicente Sanchez. Where was Frank Lopez? Just to name somebody. Where was he? Why was he not on the bench? That could have been somebody different you could have brought in to kind of get something different on the attack. Because let's be honest, the characteristics between Amo and Kyle Edwards are similar. But if you bring in a striker like Frank Lopez, it could have changed something. It could have thrown a bone to the San Antonio defense, and it didn't. So I agree with Kevin in this instance, that Toros needed something more than just heart to get past San Antonio.
Yep.
Right? And then Code Awesome says, I still don't think it was a painful loss. RGV did a great close of the season. I think you have a point, Code Awesome. I'm not going to lie. You're right. They closed the season well, considering, the 9 points out of 9 at the end to get them the playoff spots. They were able to get back against Phoenix Rising, being down 2 times in that game, beating them in penalties at Wild Horse Pass. But I think for me, painful, I call it painful because at the end of the day, you're losing against your rival, right? And you never want to lose against your rival. So in that case, I do think it's painful. Jacob, what do you think?
Oh, it's painful in not only that sense, but let's also remember RGVFC played against that team throughout the season. That's what makes it even more difficult to kind of swallow about that loss, is RGVFC had all that time to figure out how to play and to figure out what to do against San Antonio. That's also what makes it difficult, is that Wilmer Cabrera could have had a little bit more, and coaching staff could have had a little bit more. Well, they had a bunch of tape, basically, and San Antonio did their job. Why couldn't RGVFC do their job in sense? I'm not saying, of course, all in all, great season, but just lacked a little bit at the end.
So for some reason, the internet's acting a little bit wonky right now. So let's see if we can hopefully wrap this up real quick.
All
Thank
right.
you, Spectrum.
Yeah, Spectrum hasn't been great.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. The
That'll
internet
probably
seems fine
happen
for me.
tomorrow. Luckily, I'm working all day, so.
Yeah. All right. Guys, quick check. Are y'all there? Let me know in the chat if you guys can see us again. I know for some reason Spectrum is acting a little wonky right now. So we'll go ahead and wrap this up real quick. But just want to say once again, look at the comments. My dad says that's why I think we're having a better year in 2022. I hope that we can keep the majority of the players. Most of the time, San Antonio had 2 lines of defenders, and we had no long distance shots. That's the thing, and
Yep.
that's what Kevin was saying. This is more than just playing with heart. You have to play intelligently. You have to think of something, that will throw a bone in San Antonio. Long distance shots, 1-2 passing. Usually one of the most effective ways to break a solid 2 lines of defense. And RGV didn't have that. They didn't click offensively. I was I was telling Jacob about the average positions in the match for RGV. And if you look at the average positions, and I'll show you right now, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Look how RGV was in the attack was so slanted towards the right side of the field, and there really wasn't anybody until that, like I said, until probably the second half, where Elvis almost started moving over this way, but there was no danger out of it. It's like, why? Because we were missing Sorto. If you notice, guys, when Sorto was with the team, most of the players were focused on the center, and you had Christian Sorto wide on the wing, right? But you don't have that anymore. And I guess they try to have Elvis Amo be that Christian Sorto, like I mentioned, but it just didn't work out that way, right? So that's why I mentioned, like, maybe Wilmer could have done something more. Maybe he could have chosen his bench better. We don't know why Frank Lopez wasn't on the bench. We don't know what's going on, right? And it's so easy, you know what they say, hindsight is 2020. At this point we can say, well, he should have done this or we should have done that, right? But we don't know the circumstances why. But I still think that maybe Wilmer could have done something more to kind of react to what Alan Marcina put on the field. Because let's be honest, I think Alan Marcina outcoached Wilmer Cabrera.
Yep. 100% agree. He definitely did outcoach Wilmer Cabrera and the coaching staff just in general. All of that San Antonio FC staff and probably RGVFC staff, you all know they have meetings before these games talking about what's the tactics going to be the best as, because the assistant coach will have something, to chime in with. I saw this on this film and all of that. So they'll all talk about everything and give their insights. And of course, then the head coach is the final one to make the decision. So definitely outcoached RGVFC in general. And you have to definitely give them credit because they saw something that RGVFC just did not see on their end to try and break out of that.
So looking at the chat, Harry says this was a new defense from the last time San Antonio and RGV played. The last time they played was in August. I think, what was it, like two out of the 4 defenders were brand new. Harry, correct me if I'm wrong. Taintor was brought in the middle of the season, and Ford, I think, was brought in as well in the middle of the season. Mm-hmm. And there were some really good acquisitions for San Antonio since the last time that the Toros did play them. But at the end of the day, like I said, San Antonio moves on to the Western Conference Final, and now we're looking at the game, sitting on the couch in in the living room. To me, it was painful, but I am very hopeful to what happens in 2020. And next week we will be talking about, or kind of give our ideas. We'll be looking at the roster for 2021 and kind of saying who should stay for 2022 and who we think should move on to another team for 2022. I think it would be a good exercise for you all as fans to also kind of give your thoughts, who you liked as a player, who you didn't like as a player, and hopefully we can reach a consensus. The goal is to have at least 75% of the current roster come back for 2022 in this particular exercise. So that's what we'll be striving for, Jacob and I, and obviously you all as chat next week when we talk about that particular topic. Harry says Ford and Tainter are new on the back line and PC got healthy. By the way, I know probably a lot of people are going to hate me, but for me, PC is my favorite player from all of the San Antonio lineup. The way he plays the clásicos, the derbies, like the way he is into the game, the way he puts in the hustle, the way he never gives up. And not only is he a player with hustle and heart, the guy's got brains and how to play defensively as well. Sure, he can be a hothead at times, like that stupid yellow he got, where he had no reason to get a yellow for talking to the ref. But at the end of the day, I think it's players like him that makes San Antonio very dangerous in the midfield. And it's a player that I respect the way he plays. And that's just a personal opinion of mine. But I just wanted to say it that since he did mention PC being healthy. My dad says that's what we all love football. Everybody sees a single game with different perspectives, no right or wrong. Thank you, Dad. That is very true as well. But anyway, guys, so quickly, Jacob, this weekend, we have San Antonio going up against Orange County SC. What are you expecting? Who do you think is going to win?
I think, honestly, I still am going to expect a close match just due to the fact, time change. That's a big thing. 2-hour difference is going to be a big thing for San Antonio to come back from. It's going to be better for them because they will get 2 extra hours of sleep. But that's one thing that can also hurt you at that same time. I know I've done that multiple times, but going back from it, I think it's going to end up being a 2-1 win for San Antonio FC. I heard a lot of them talk about it last night on the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, and kind of sticking with that just due to the fact, we saw what San Antonio can do, and we've seen how Orange County have been this season. They got into the finals, the conference finals, by a little bit of luck, by a couple of key teams being beaten for them to go through. They have had home field advantage, so that's going to be key, but I think it's going to be 2-1 San Antonio. My bold prediction would be a 5-0 victory for Orange County SC, and just San Antonio FC, for some strange reason, to fall apart.
So I talked about this yesterday with the striker Tejas. When RGV played Orange County SC in the middle of the season, what was the scoreline?
I believe it was 2-0.
How did the Toros play? Do you remember?
They played exceptional.
But what exactly? They played high pressure. They got their first goal in the second minute by Juan Carlos Azócar. And they just continued to dominate. They just continued to choke Orange County SC's attack. Then they get a penalty in the 80th minute to make it 2-0, scored by Rodrigo Lopez. Why does that sound familiar? Because that's exactly how San Antonio played RGV last Saturday. And if they can replicate this at Championship Field against Orange County SC, I think San Antonio is a shoo-in to make it to the USL final. Now, if they go up against Louisville City, whoever they go against, Louisville City or the Rowdies, that's a whole different animal right there. But just going against Orange County SC, I think the way San Antonio's been playing defensively and offensively, right? Because this isn't really a team that that lacks finishing. Look, Orange County FC, they came off a 1-0 win over Colorado Springs Switchbacks, being a man down, right? Which is that it's a feat within itself. But then they drew 0-0 against Oakland Roots, right? So offensively, they may not be at the best position at this moment. San Antonio is. San Antonio in these two playoff games, they scored 5 goals and only letting in 1 goal. Tell me how that is not that doesn't make them a favorite to win this final, Western Conference final. My prediction is San Antonio 3, Orange County 0. My bold prediction is that Orange County once again takes it in penalties. That's how confident I am on how good San Antonio FC is. And it pains me to say it. We have to give credit where credit is due. At this point, I see them huge favorites over Orange County SC. Now the final, like I said, it's a completely different animal if they go against either Louisville City or Tampa Bay Rowdies. But I think there's, at this point, right now, in the Western Conference, there's nobody better than San Antonio. And the Toros can get there, but it's going to take time. Because remember last season, San Antonio, they were good in the regular season and they choked in the in the postseason, right? And they built up. They got in key players defensively. They felt like maybe they lacked somewhere in the defense in the beginning of the season. They brought in good players defensively. Look where they're at right now. They're a little a well-oiled machine. So it's our turn, I guess, to kind of see them be out on top. But we'll be there. We'll be there one time. We have to be patient. We have to be patient. Obviously, we can criticize some particular aspects of it, and maybe you think maybe they should have gone for this in the offseason instead of focusing on this particular aspect. Yep. But I think building a championship team takes time. And I always bring up Tigres. You know, the team was in 2009, 2010, they were on the brink of getting relegated. You're bringing a coach that loves playing defensively, that loves organization. And and his first season, they didn't make it to playoffs. But the next season, 2011, in December of 2011, they got their first championship after 29 years. And from then on, you know, the story writes itself. You know, from 2 stars now to 7 stars, and an international cup with the CONCACAF Champions League. That at the end, I felt that maybe Tuca Ferretti was kind of like holding back this team rather than leading this team. Yeah, I mean, it happens. Now you have like world's quality players, you know, that could be a little bit more offensive, right? But at the end of the day, it's a process that these teams have to go through. We can't expect a championship team right off the bat. It's so hard. It's so hard to create a championship team in seconds. So looking forward, honestly, to 2022. We'll see what happens in the offseason. I know, for example, Phoenix Rising, they already made some moves for the offseason with renewals and options exercised for some of their players. So it will be interesting to see how quickly the Toros make these roster moves to kind of get an idea what their plan is for 2022. But you guys, I thank you all for tuning in tonight. I appreciate all of your input. Once again, I ask y'all, if you haven't liked this video, be sure to give this a like and share it with all of your friends. I know next week is going to be probably our last episode, not including the Patreon end of the year show. That will happen 2 weeks. Actually, no, not 2 weeks from now, because yeah, probably 2 weeks from now. In fact, even this next show, I could probably do it in 2 weeks because next week is Thanksgiving. So I know a lot of I know I'm going to be out. That's right. I'm going to be out of town. So in 2 weeks we'll talk about what we expect, who should come and who should leave the team for 2022, and then the following week we'll talk about, we'll have the show with the patrons to kind of talk with them about what they thought about the season overall. But guys, I appreciate all of your support. Code Awesome, Harry, Javier Ochoa, my dad, Mike, Kevin Ramirez, thank you all for your input. I always appreciate when you guys participate. Give us a new perspective on maybe things that we may be missing. I mean, I don't hold myself as the owner of the absolute truth when it comes to the Toros. I don't think Jacob does either. We're always willing to learn new things. We understand different perspectives of what you think about the Toros, and it's a good discussion to have, guys. This is what we are. We're here to create a community of Toros fans, so that way this fan base can keep on growing. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's important for the fan base to be informed about their team, and hopefully that'll help drive up the number of avid fans for the Toros. So Harry, he says the key for RGV is bringing back Rodrigo Lopez. What a class act, and does so much for the Valley. Put him in charge of marketing. Yeah, to me it's key, and it's surprising that they got him because of a tryout. That's what's the most surprising to me. When Rodrigo Lopez told me that when we did the Striker Texas extra time with him, I was just surprised, because you would expect a player of that caliber in the USL Championship, he's going to be a shoo-in. Any team would want him. And the fact that he made it to the Toros due to him going through a tryout, it's like it just boggles your mind, especially when you look at how well he played for us this season. It's like, man, like we were so lucky that he decided to come try out for the Toros, right? So hopefully he returns. Harry says, yeah, OCSC thinking they can just go over the top to Damas. Good luck against that back line. His prediction is 3-0 for San Antonio. And yeah, Mike will be talking about the Stampede as well when he is on in 2 weeks. Obviously, if you guys are interested in becoming a part of the Stampede supporters group, he's the best person to talk to. He's the Stampede president. Be sure to hit him up on his social media. Be sure to post it. Post it on the chat where they can follow you on social media. And if you like next show, you want to talk about it, we'll go ahead and invite you so you can talk about what you guys are planning for 2022 as well. Jacob, any last words before we go?
No, just it's gonna be interesting for the off season. I'm looking forward to that silly season, and it should be good. If y'all want to follow me on Twitter, y'all can follow me on Jacob Young 456.
And you can follow me at Eochoa_8 on Twitter, and on Instagram, it is Edson DITV8, or actually it's Eochoa DITV8. Be sure to also follow my works, guys. So I do write articles for the Striker Texas. I write recaps. I was the one that wrote the article about Jonas Jelberg not being eligible to play in the playoffs. And there's a lot of stuff plans that I would like to do, not only for Down in the Valley, but also with the Striker Texas. So be sure to guys check out my articles. I will always post them on my Twitter whenever they are published. Just a quick reminder that new subscribers to the Striker Texas do get a 30-day free trial. So you guys can check out the premium content there, before you actually pay a cent to support local soccer. But yeah, it was a fun experience. It was a fun year, ladies and gentlemen. I can't wait for 2022 and see what that year brings us. So y'all be safe. Have a happy Thanksgiving. If you guys are going to go out there and travel, be safe out there, take your precautions. And hopefully we'll see y'all in 2 weeks to talk about the roster and see who do you think should stay or should go. Thank you for supporting Down in the Valley. We'll see you guys in the next show. Take care.